Thousands of mourners from Colombia's indigenous NASA community pay their respects. 2 NASA men were killed in a confrontation with FARC guerrillas. The NASA waved their flag in defiance of guerrillas' spies thought to be in the crowd. There are so many mourners, people take to the trees to watch the burial. Under the weight, the tree splits. A moment of absurdity in a sea of sadness. These killings have helped push 2-year-old peace talks between the government and the guerrillas to a precarious state. Even as both sides say they want negotiations to move forward, here in northern Cauca, the killings continue.
We're traveling higher into the mountains of northern Cauca. This region is one of Colombia's most violent. Here, this 50-year civil war that has leftist guerrillas fighting the Colombian state is just a part of everyday life.
Compañeros, hoy nos encontramos en este espacio de concentración por nuestros compañeros mártires que fueron asesinados por balas asesinas.
The 2 men killed belong to the Indigenous Guard. The NASA are trying their own path to end the violence in their region. They want both the government and the guerrillas out of their homeland, and it's the Indigenous Guard who are leading the fight. Hernando Mesa is the political coordinator of the NASA community, which oversees the Indigenous Guard.
The
role of the Guard is to act as a body for peace. It means to keep authorities informed of what's happening. If there is danger, they alert people. They are the front line, checking things out so that people don't get caught in the danger.
The age of the guards range from 10 to 80, men and women. They serve as a sort of police force for a community that rejects both the Colombian government and the FARC rebels. The NASA have renounced violence, so in this heavily armed zone, where guerrillas launch mortars and the army fires back with helicopters, the Indigenous Guard is armed only with sticks. JORGELISE UCUE is a captain in the Guards.
Solamente nosotros. El bastón.
We only have our traditional stick, our hearts, and our words.
Siempre hemos luchado, hemos construido esta lucha.
The center of the conflict here is the tiny town of Toribio.
The FARC have been operating in this region for decades. Their graffiti is all over this town. This one says FARC, 50 years, peace with social justice. But it's more than that. Locals say the town is filled with spies, watching and listening to everything you say and do.
Even as Toribio has been hit 600 times in the past decade, life goes on. The guerrilla attacks have ranged from small incursions to full-on attempts to take control of the town. An Indigenous Guard filmed one such attack in 2011. A FARC bomb hidden in a bus and set off next to the police station killed 4 people. The indigenous leaders say both the army and the guerrillas are the cause of this violence. GABRIEL PAVI is an indigenous leader.
Hemos dicho, en nuestro territorio indígena no debe existir ni la fuerza pública, llámese policía.
It's very clear to us that the more presence of armed people here, more violence comes. The army is here and the guerrillas attack. The army chases them, and then in these battles, civilians die. Women and children have died.
Han muerto niños, mujeres, han muerto ancianos.
The conflict has been exacerbated by the illegal drugs industry, a source of money for the guerrillas.
To get a sense of just how lawless this whole zone is, we're in a marijuana field. But what's interesting is we're 20 feet away from the main road. And up there you can see coca bushes. All of those leaves are going to be processed into cocaine.
After the killings of the 2 indigenous guards, the NASA captured a group of 7 guerrillas who did the shooting.
They've just given us permission to interview one of them.
2 guerrillas are being held in the Indigenous Guard headquarters. In this grimy cell, a guerrilla gives his name as Edward. Tomorrow he will be tried by an Indigenous court for his role in the killings. He says he didn't pull the trigger and was on another part of the mountain when the killings occurred. Now 18, he joined the FARC when he was 16. When asked what punishment he'll receive from the Indigenous court, he guesses the traditional NASA sentence.
I
think it will be a remedy, but we'll have to see what the Indigenous Assembly decides.
Called remedies, these can be physical punishment, such as whippings or forced labor. Edward provides a rare insight into what Colombia's guerrillas think of the peace process with the government that could end the 50-year civil war.
I want them to come to an agreement. I don't want the conflict to continue. Maybe this is the way. I want a change. I want a true peace, not a trick. The government must really want a deal.
On the day of the trial, security is tight. The Indigenous fear the FARC might try to free their imprisoned comrades. According to the Colombian constitution, the Indigenous have the right to try their own who commit crimes in their territory, so bypassing the official justice system. Under the NASA system, the accused has no right to a defense lawyer, only a chance to explain his actions. The Indigenous authorities investigate and decide whether he is guilty or not. The punishment is decided by the community. Around 2,000 NASA turn up to participate in the court, a jury of thousands. The Indigenous authorities outline the evidence against the accused. They agree that the leader of this unit, who goes by the alias Fercho, was responsible for the killings. Fercho is given a chance to speak. He complains that the trial is far from fair.
What I say here doesn't really matter, as the Indigenous court will do what it wants. But I had an order not to let myself be caught or have my weapons taken away, and I prefer to take orders from my organization than any other.
Fercho is right to be worried. The FARC metes out its own justice to its guerrillas, with punishments that can range from forced labor to the firing squad. Infractions can range from sleeping without permission to fleeing the group, something almost always punishable by death. Fearing spies, some FARC commanders have ordered dozens of executions of guerrillas, decimating their own units. The crowd demands the stiffest sentence possible. Fercho receives 60 years. The trial moves on to the 4 others, including Edward. The Indigenous authorities make clear that the 4 didn't kill the 2 Indigenous guards. The judges tried to push the crowd for the traditional punishments, the remedies. But the crowd wants prison. Families of the dead call loudest for justice. Nearby, the families of the guerrillas are also there. The crowd demands more and finally settles on 40 years in prison. Edward will have no chance of appeal. Families of the convicted guerrillas are devastated.
It
shows the NASA are tired, upset, and pained by the death of these guards.
The Indigenous worry that the FARC will carry out reprisals on the NASA for the trial and punishment of the guerrillas.
There are fears because they have taken revenge on us before. We will act if they attack us. If we don't act, they kill us. If we do act, they kill us. We prefer to die on our feet, doing something.
Two other guerrillas, both minors, are to be sent to a rehabilitation home and receive 20 lashes across the legs. We were not allowed to film the punishment. When they caught the guerrillas, the NASA also seized their weapons. The machine guns and uniforms are destroyed. It's a small act of defiance by the NASA. No one knows how many more weapons are in this zone or when the next attack will come. Outside, a captain reminds his guards of the threats to the leaders. He says a suspicious car has been abandoned in a nearby town. The guards fear it could be a car bomb. Armed only with sticks, they set off to investigate.
America's Now.